The conversation begins with concerns about Abby taking longer to react. Despite feeling tired, Abby shares an idea about finding the Sentinel by flying to look for a tower in the sky. However, there are challenges. The tower is likely obscured by clouds or too distant to see, and Abby's current condition raises concerns about the feasibility of such a long flight. Nevertheless, Abby remains optimistic, suggesting Eglatown's cliff as a potential launch point. A wandering bard named Dracona introduces herself and explains she was sent by Lady Carlotta to find the listener after their encounter with Cartothia, the supposed martyr maiden. Search teams found no trace of Cartothia, so Dracona offers to use her musical abilities to recreate the frequency experienced during the encounter, hoping to uncover missed details. She requests information about the meeting with Cartothia to help tune into these memories. The listener experiences a memory where their tacit marks glow, revealing a connection to someone called the Lost. In this memory, they discuss the Sentinel, whose voice guided them. There's confusion about resonators, with mentions of Imperator, Leviathan, and the Thrinodian. The person in the memory, Flad Elise, reveals having fragmented memories about becoming a resonator and fighting an unknown entity. The conversation continues about a frequency entanglement and weakening resonance powers. Flad Elise reveals her true form resides in an inverted Sonorosphere suspended in the sky, with a tower at its center, locked by 3 seals. Abby detects a Thranodian scent from Flad, suggesting a possible connection to this entity. They theorize this could explain Flad's power loss during a battle alongside Imperator. Flad explains that while she spent time alone contemplating possibilities in the Sonoran sphere, she's prepared for whatever answers she might find. She reveals that part of the Sonoran sphere exists on land, but is surrounded by an impenetrable barrier that also maintains the sphere's integrity. If destroyed, it would cause catastrophic destruction to Raguna. Flad mentions sensing someone like a deep-sea jellyfish searching for entrance. The listener awakens from what appears to have been an unexpected sleep during Dracona's resonance experience. Dracona is relieved they're awake and reflects on the unexpected connection created by her music. She questions whether the girl, Flad Elise, is friend or foe, and wonders about the truths behind the seal and the mysterious wandering figure. Dracona promises to pass this information to Lady Carlotta. Sebastian, representing the Fasalia family, invites the listener to the Fasalia estate. The family is rumored to worship the Thrinodian. The listener accepts, but delays the meeting. Later, information is shared about the Fasalia family's ancient lineage predating the Order of the Deep. The current head is rumored to have taken power by poisoning her predecessor and is known for manipulation through hallucinations. The listener connects the description of the Fasalia head to the wandering figure, Cartathia, mentioned near the barrier, suspecting they might be the same person. They decide to visit despite warnings. A Montelli ally offers protection if needed, while continuing to gather information about the person Cartathia mentioned. The listener arrives at the Fasalia estate and meets Cantarella Fasalia, the 36th matriarch. Cantarella invites the listener to her study and offers tea as an apology for an incident involving someone named Gilberto. She suggests every sorrow has its way of fading and asks the listener to serve as a mediator. When questioned about the Fasalia family's true beliefs, Cantarella remarks on Gilberto's mind being beyond saving and shifts to discussing Raguna's current state, acknowledging the listener has experienced a Thranodian invasion firsthand. The Thrinodian, known as Leviathan, possesses the power to merge and assimilate, using distorted beliefs to spread a spiritual plague that devours civilizations from within. Though previous attempts were thwarted, Raguna is already compromised, with masses unknowingly walking toward an unseen abyss. There exists a conflict between the truth of the Order's beliefs and family loyalty. The Thranodian targets those who know the truth, whispering until souls fracture and minds follow, leaving only puppets behind. A request awaits after everything is revealed, with the truth residing in the castle's deepest part. A dust-covered statue represents the relationship between the Fasalia and the Order, symbolizing both friendship and submission. Violacus plants, which produce a unique fragrance, serve as vital ingredients for elixirs and have soothing properties on their own. Upon reaching a significant location, it's revealed that leaving is no longer an option. The Thrinodian noticed the visitor upon learning the truth. The sanctuary reveals the Sentinel's true form, a majestic steed that galloped with the wind, not an oceanic creature as worshipped by the Order. A request is made to persuade Jue, the Sentinel of Jinzhou, to come to Renusida and save Imperator. In exchange, any condition would be met. An offer to stay at the estate is extended, providing both insight into Renusida's past and protection from the Order's attention. The legend of a maiden isn't entirely fiction. The Sentinel appoints a resonator through a particular artifact, the Sword of Divinity, Turvin, sealed with the Sentinel's powers. Only the Chosen One may draw it, as resonating with the sword means resonating with the Sentinel. The martyred maiden, Cartathia, had unclear resonance, possibly with the Thranodian or the corrupted Sentinel. Mysteriously, the maiden was already dead. The Fasalia family once held divine trials for young women to attempt resonance with Turvin's powers. Some glimpsed fragments of truth. Words mysteriously appeared. The maiden is dead. A vision revealed an inverted ruin suspended in the sky, bearing similarities to Cartathia's descriptions. Turvin may be the key to entering the Sonorosphere, suggesting Imperator's involvement in its creation. The visitor's true identity is questioned. They are revealed as the Sentinel's Arbiter, surprising since the Thessalians revere Imperator as their divinity. A request is made to help rescue the Sentinel and save Renusida from chaos. The sword Turvin is entrusted to the Arbiter. A cable car in the Fasalia estate's lower levels leads directly to the Sonorosphere. Before becoming a Sonorosphere, it was the Ovanolian Seminary where the martyred maiden studied. The underground passage maintained a superficial harmony between the Thessalians and the Order. Discussion turns to the seemingly perfect alignment of events. Rather than fate, it's argued that mutual goals naturally lead to convergence. Choices and will created this situation. Rumors about the Fasalia head being a reclusive poison maker prove partly true. The Thessalians have lived under the Thranodian's influence for generations. When a ruling member's soul falters, tradition dictates that the successor administer a self-made poison, a succession ritual that has continued for centuries, with each family head bearing the title of Bane. The journey reaches the old seminary's undercrypt, with the Sonorosphere gateway at its center. Unexpected tacit discords appear despite no nearby field, possibly originating from the sphere itself. Small creatures called gopas are encountered along the way. The second dark tide occurred at the Ovanolian Seminary when the Blessed Maiden was crowned. While people remember the seminary disappearing into the sky, they forget that the dark tide that should have engulfed Renusida vanished with it, suggesting someone inside stopped the spread. Internal conflict exists regarding trusting the Maiden, but caution is advised as the Thrinodian exploits weakness. Though trust can be placed when evidence is clear, the timing must be right. The journey continues with an ominous question: who will sink into the depths? A group of travelers reaches a gateway leading to the Sonorosphere, a mysterious realm beyond a bridge. One companion reveals this is the furthest they've ever ventured. According to information from the Sentinel, Turvin is the key to entering the Sonorosphere, and only a blessed maiden can wield the Sword of Divinity. The travelers meet Cartathia, who recognizes one of them as Cantarella Fasalia. She remarks on Cantarella's complicated ties with the Order and remembers seeing the Blessed Maiden's performance. Cartathia is surprised that Cantarella looks exactly the same as she did during that performance, suggesting unusual circumstances regarding her age. Cartathia identifies Turvin as the Sword of Divinity that contains the Sentinel's sealed powers. When Cantarella questions how she knows this, Cartathia explains that memories flowed into her mind upon entering the Sonorosphere, revealing information about the sword's origins. A revelation occurs about resonators and their connections to either the Sentinel or the Thrinodian. Someone mentions being the sole survivor of a past event and recalls two other swords, Hogne, Discord, and Haltia, Virtue. Placing these three swords on their respective pedestals should break the seal over the main tower. The group decides to proceed despite concerns about potential traps. They place Turvin on a pedestal, causing a tower to elevate. The area has inverted gravity, making movement difficult until they adjust. They use a gondola called Phone to travel, though it only has 2 seats. The travelers encounter remnants of the Dark Tide, binding a statue containing the Order's remnant spark. According to legend, the first Primus used this spark to purify the first Dark Tide. They work to clear the remnant energy to release the spark, which they can use to burn through vines blocking their path. The group finds a gravity calibrator that changes the direction of gravity's pull, allowing them to reach previously inaccessible areas. They hurry to purify statues before the Dark Tide's corruption returns. They navigate water rises where not only gravity is inverted, but also the essence of the Dark Tide itself. The travelers reach the Tower of Salvation, location of the first pedestal. One character expresses a preference for knowing if they're a villain rather than living without understanding their past. They consider memories essential to determining how to face their remaining recollections. A flashback or vision reveals a coronation ceremony for Fliderlis, the child of divinity, an immaculate one. She chooses salvation among the Order's 3 doctrines and is crowned as the Blessed Maiden, becoming a bridge between heavens and the living and the Master Soul Receiver and Herald. After placing Turvin on the pedestal, strange phenomena occur involving a giant blue bottle and mysterious frequencies. Someone suggests that the Sentinel of Jinja's powers, Imperator, have entered a tacit mark, granting the ability to split and manipulate space. This power transfer was meant for the true Maiden. The group decides to rest until sunrise. A conversation reveals the Fasalia family was once a faction leader in a historical conflict. After their defeat, the Union was disbanded, and the Fasalias withdrew from public life. Someone asks if this forced a public change in beliefs. The Fasalia family's disgrace stems from complex reasons. They were given Turwin by Napoli II, the first Primus, who later revealed the truth about the pilgrimage. When Napoli II traveled through the first Dark Tide, he found no sanctuary, only a battlefield of darkness. The heavenly voices were actually seductive whispers from Thranodian, who uses beliefs to spread a spiritual plague through puppets. The Sentinel realized the Thranodians' plots, prompting the first Dark Tide as a hasty reaping. To save Raguna, the Sentinel split their power, giving part to Napoli II to empower the Echoes against tacit discords and purify the Dark Tide. The other part was kept inside Turvin. During this moment of weakened power, Thranodion corrupted and merged with the Sentinel's body, transforming them into their current form. Though the first Primus physically remained intact, his soul was torn apart in the struggle between Thranodion and Sentinel within their shared body. The Sentinel's power failed to shield the Primus from Thranodion's influence. As the divinities fought for dominance, he committed many misdeeds against his own people. Eventually, he confessed the truth to the Thessalians and begged for release, explaining his abrupt passing. The Thessalian family, powerless against the Order, could only submit to their cause while secretly keeping the truth, waiting for the right moment to act. This explains the harsh treatment toward Cartathia, despite acknowledging she might stand with humanity. There was a test designed to find those with the strongest wills and force them to resonate with Turwin. Despite long efforts, the only answer received was, "The Maiden is dead." Paradise is described not positively, but as a place where sickness, hunger, sorrow, and despair cease to exist, where deacons sing eternal hymns. This perfectly describes the dark tide, which initially claimed only areas it touched, assimilating all life as its vanguard. The dead would grow mouths and sing hymns continuously, needing no eyes or ears, as their purpose was to spread blindness and madness. Even non-believers were drawn to Leviathan's creed, while the corrupted sang hymns endlessly, journeying to merge with the dark tide. When faithful souls return to paradise, the land consumed by dark tide begins its pilgrimage, sown by darkened skies, spreading its gospel wherever it lands. The final act of the dark tide is the journeying paradise. Before becoming a Sonorosphere, the Seminary on an island was both a learning place and a sanctuary for raising dragon echoes. Unlike typical seminaries focusing on cultural arts, this one taught resonators practical skills like scriptures, geography, history, and combat, emphasizing the importance of fighting in the doctrine of salvation. The Sword of Discord, Hogness, and the Sword of Virtue, Holtir, are significant. Holtir was formerly owned and is one of the swords that can break the seal. The characters seek to discover how it gained this power. A character discovers the frequency they're tracking is not singular but mixed with something else, making it difficult to isolate. Though not a threat, it's described as a useless, crumbly mess that takes up space. Similar frequencies might be encountered at the next two pedestals. A profound conversation about staying true to oneself against external forces, whether from the Thranodian or Sentinel. The speaker reassures that authenticity will lead to everything being all right. These words of encouragement emphasize personal integrity in the face of adversity and express gratitude for prior support. Fliderlis confronts a false divinity who questions why she persists in her oath and hinders its gospel. She stands firm, declaring Gehenna will reveal the truth. The false divinity warns about insanity from disobedience. Fliderlis affirms she will never forget her cause and will oppose divinity if it attacks innocence, standing with the support of countless souls. A brief exchange about Gehenna follows, with someone acknowledging witnessing the same event. The speaker expresses gratitude to Anna, Casatombo, Alnoth, and others, finally facing them with the declaration that their sacrifices were not in vain. Someone needs a quiet moment after losing composure. The speaker apologizes for their emotional display, but has found their true self again. They acknowledge the possibility of being the Thranodian's resonator, but are clear about their allegiances. Some memories have returned thanks to companions. They resolve to free the Sentinel and defeat the Thrinodian by investigating an absorbed frequency. Someone examines a blue object in Mark's Tacit that has Thranodian energy mixed with something else. The group discusses why the Sentinel would split their energy to prepare the Blessed Maiden, yet also channel the Thranodian's energy through Hogness. They note the Thranodian's energy would damage the Sentinel's resonator, but not affect someone protected by Abby. The group theorizes answers might lie in other mixed frequencies or behind the third sealed passageway. Cartathia is making sense of things but needs time to process. They agree to keep watch overnight and continue their journey the next day. A discussion about Dragon Tacit discords that predated Runacida settlers and were eventually tamed into echoes by the Order. These intelligent creatures had their own society, with Gehenna as their king, who they hoped would defeat the Dark Tide and bring truth, but apparently failed. The speaker identifies as a resonator born from the merge between Sentinel and Thranodian, questioning where their true allegiance lies. They wonder what it feels like to be the Sentinel's resonator and express desire to meet Jewess resonator, described as a woman of strong resolve. The speaker needs mental clarity and promises not to let emotions interfere with tomorrow's journey. They encourage rest. Later, discussion confirms a portion of energy was split from the Thranodian, leading to philosophical musings about the unpredictable nature of souls, whether they become elixir, poison, or nothing. Someone mentions finding advantageous information, but defers explanation until later. Further conversation reveals continued monitoring and speculation about two frequencies being connected through Leviathan's power to merge and assimilate, contrasting with Imperator's power to split energy. Cartathia is singing a Rhinocida farewell song for friends about to depart. She explains she never properly mourned her fallen comrades or said goodbye during the battle. Now, with recovered memories, she wants to thank them properly, even though they may only exist as lingering frequencies. Someone reassures Cartathia that her fallen friends can feel her intentions, mentioning witnessing two friends reconcile within a Sonorosphere despite one being deceased. They explain that concentrated frequencies might carry traces of human will, allowing communication with the manifestations that remember Cartathia. Cartathia realizes that if her friends can still hear and feel, then proper goodbyes aren't yet needed. She must deliver them a real victory first. Discussion follows about obsession keeping the Sonorosphere intact until they are relieved of duty. Cartathia confirms her name preference. Morning arrives, and it's time to settle matters. Home signals urgency. Someone wonders about Cantarella's status and calls her briefly. The conversation is short, but interpreted as a form of encouragement, with the observation that everyone shows kindness in their own way. A cryptic warning that someone is not who they appear to be. The group focuses on rebuilding a waterway and removing shackles, connecting to earlier mentions of obsession until relieved of duty. Someone addresses Cadento, hoping to help them let go. Plans to break chains are mentioned twice, with someone suggesting an alternative idea. A morph painting is identified as a way to reach the highest point. Conversation reveals Cadento was Cartathia's first echo after joining the Order, who sacrificed himself against the Thranodian. Cadento returned as a tacit discord, but still recognized Cartathia's sword Haltia and tried to protect it. Trapped in the past, Cadento must be freed. A confrontation ensues with someone sensing weakness, followed by a moment of resonance and encouragement to strike through shadows without hesitation. A powerful entity asks if someone will return to them. The responder refuses to give up hope and promises to expose the entity's lies. The entity then reveals a shocking truth. Fliderlis is its creation, made whole and perfect, whose resonance brought forth the second dark tide. Someone feels relief. Abby has settled, and both were affected. Memories are returning completely. The speaker reveals they modulated the Sentinel and Thranodion's frequencies, though it wasn't their original intention. They pass responsibility to another, explaining a crown that controls the Thranodion's resonator. During the second dark tide, Cartathia split herself to escape the Thranodion's control. When she destroyed the Thrinodion that had taken over the Sentinel's body, it began assimilating into Flad Elise, the part of her that remained. Flad Elise retained power, but is being corrupted. The Thrinodion's influence is eroding Flad Elise's resolve, forcing her to split her power frequencies to buy time. These split frequencies needed a vessel. With limited time remaining, Cartathia has been searching for someone capable of wielding this power to defeat the false divinity permanently. Flad Elise contains both Cartathia's left-behind self and the Thrinodion, bound by obsession until relieved of duty. Cartathia acknowledges that the part of her wishing to live will vanish as her wish is fulfilled. She requests companionship one last time. Cartathia regrets being unable to apologize to Cantarella, whose preparations were futile. She asks someone to convey her apology. At the origin site of the second dark tide, she reveals that with the power to split and merge energy, there is a unique opportunity to use her connection with Flad Elise to bring the fragments of her tortured consciousness here. proposal is made to remake entities as one and release them from the world, thereby trapping the Thranodion forever in a lifeless shell. The speaker has lived life fully and wants others to do the same. Cartathia's wish has been fulfilled, and now it's Fliderlis's turn. She seeks self-destruction to end her torment, having lost all hope. Born cursed as the Thrinodion's threat to others, the speaker plans to become the prison sealing its fate. This transformation represents becoming whole again and true to oneself, a fitting end as they reach their final destination. After one last swan song, the lights will go out. A dramatic moment occurs with someone calling out to Thea and Fliderlis. Despite not being whole, someone shows determination. They explain they would have revealed themselves earlier but waited for the right moment. Turvin, the Sentinel sword, is presented to help resist the Thranodion's attack. Every potential maiden must resonate with the Sentinel through Turvin to pass divine trials. Survivors receive fragments of truth but lose memories to varying degrees. These lost memories fall into a Sonorosphere, carrying traces of Sentinel power that Turvin absorbs. Cartathia alone must choose to wield the sword for it to become the Blessed Maiden's sword. A sacrifice was made long ago when resonating with the Sentinel. The energy received from the Sentinel's second awakening was split and offered back, allowing momentary control of their body. This enabled Fliderlis to seize an opportunity to kill the tainted Sentinel. Though the real Blessed Maiden died, the false one can become true through character rather than being defined by a blade. Despite curses and hardship, there remains a commitment to save what is true. Gratitude is expressed for stopping the second dark tide. Someone needs rest while important work continues, requiring privacy. A question arises about whether the remaining energy is enough, with the response being simply that some things must be done. Accused of betrayal, someone defends their actions, reiterating that true character isn't defined by objects and that those cursed as playthings of the Thranodion can reshape their fate. Staying true to oneself is emphasized as what will ultimately make everything all right. The frequency in someone's body is slurring, but hope remains. The Imperator reveals having safeguarded core data against assimilation. A covenant is recalled where the Imperator investigated the Thranodion's nature under the condition of unbound root privileges to act without risk. With unrestricted access, a merger with Leviathan is planned as a last resort. The Thrinodian, characterized as a taint on civilization, cannot be undone while civilization endures and doesn't know its own means of destruction, but can be shackled. Beings can bear only a single resonator. The Thrinodian used a return pod to create Fliderlis as its resonator, who also became the Imperator's when she became Leviathan's resonator. The Imperator, upon merging with the Thranodion, waited for a steadfast resonator to join the fight. Cantarella became a safeguard after Fliderlis's creation. If a mortal using Turvin became the Imperator's resonator while Fliderlis served the Thranodion, it would break the one resonator law, destroying all involved, including the Thranodion. Instead, Cantarella chose a different path. Cantarella sacrificed all power from the Second Awakening, surrendering it to the Imperator, who briefly regained control and compelled Fliderlis to strike at the corrupted throne. This wasn't the original plan, but an unexpected variable born of hope, the influence of humanity causing change and freedom. Despite twists in the journey, victory stands. Questioning if the end justifies the means, the Imperator asks if they were wrong. The response is that judgment isn't possible for those still standing because of those actions. The Imperator wishes to speak with Fliderlis, now called Cartathia, and plans to bring her back by using remnants of her frequency lingering within a tacit mark. With little time left, guidance is offered to bring Cartathia back. A question remains about fulfilling the charge set upon them. Words are spoken to the Vasilius, declaring someone as Cardinal and as Cartathia, commanding them to awaken. A being that owes a great debt asks if Cartathia rages at life's unfolding or renounces faith. They offer to erase painful memories, but Cartathia chooses to keep them despite the pain, seeing truth as a life beacon. She would rather suffer for truth than embrace blissful ignorance, asking not to forget who she is. Rejecting the notion that perfection comes through losing parts of oneself, Cartathia insists that denying experiences would make any perfection hollow. The being offers blessings as their power wanes, declaring that humanity needs no more divinity and will forge a new era by will rather than prophecy. Cartathia is deemed worthy of the Blessed Maiden title. Someone is called righteous and noted for appearing gentle during their fight. Asked whether to be called Cartathia or Fliderlis, they choose Cartathia, since that's how they were first known. The Sentinel seemingly appeared but is now absent. Feeling empty after losing past identities and aspirations, Cartathia decides to stay longer in their current location. Someone who defied has isolated themselves in the High Tower, attempting to cleanse Darktide remnants, unknowingly becoming divinity's most loyal servant. This is challenged as wrong. Despite humanity's exploited flaws, resistance continues. The Thranodion's perfect creation is declared no longer whole, prompting assertions that the righteous will always rise against evil. No war is impregnable, and though humanity has exploitable flaws, the fight continues. Resistance rifts will persist, with mankind refusing oppression by the Thranodion. A call to freedom rings out with instructions to wait for a destroyer. The mighty God-killer is summoned. A request is made to keep events private. Someone expresses a desire to surpass the Righteous One, acknowledging their strength in defying wishes, ignoring pleas, achieving victory, and ultimately saving them. They question who would save the Righteous One in similar circumstances. The bond with the Sentinel is now a bond with them, evolving beyond the Arbiter-Helper relationship.